G'day guys and gal. Majorkill, why didn't you upload a video on Friday? I hear nobody ask. Well, funnily enough, I lost power halfway through editing it, but I didn't just lose power. The power line outside my apartment exploded and caught fire. My apartment started flashing like that scene from Stranger Things. And then boom! Pitch black with the tree next to the power line on fire. Not really the thing you would expect to experience in the inner suburbs of the world's most livable city, but yeah. Following that theme of electricity, today we're checking out the Thunder Warriors, the proto-Astartes that conquered Earth for the Emperor. Although it's not controversial to say that overall they were inferior to the long-lived Space Marines, however something a lot of people don't know is just how powerful these Thunder Warriors were. After all, they weren't put down by the Emperor because they weren't good enough at killing and conquering, more like they were too good at it. Before we get started, another Monday, another major mini release. This time we have the Lightning Captain, a staunch warrior of unity. This large and in charge mini stands slightly larger than a Space Marine, with the bulk to match. He comes with a loadout of a short sword as well as a pistol. If he sells well, I'll look at doing a 3-man squad of Lightning Warriors to complement him. However, I do have some bad news. Due to things that I can't yet talk about but I'm really trying to sort out, some of the major minis are to be delisted. In 48 hours, I will be removing the Space Lion squad, including the Space Lion Sergeant, from the store permanently. Other models that are in peril include the Galactic Shark Squad, Shark Daddy, Space Elf Deathlord, Lord of the Night, and a few others. Rest assured, I'm fighting tooth and nail and all will soon be revealed. But yeah, the Space Lions are definitely going, and most likely the Lord of the Night as well in the next 48 hours. In saying that, if you are a 3D modeler with experience with minis or no one, email me at majorkill@majorminis.com.au and I want to work with you and blow this range the fuck up and become the premier alternative mini business in the world. Today we'll go over just how powerful a Thunder Warrior is really, to determine if they're better warriors than Space Marines or if they were just simply a flawed and inferior prototype of the Astartes. Let's get into it. Before we can understand their strength and power, we have to determine what a Thunder Warrior actually was. How are they different to Space Marines and Custodes? The Emperor wasn't an all-knowing and all-seeing kind of guy. He wasn't the #1 biomancer in the galaxy, and he couldn't just flick his clit and spawn Space Marines and Primarchs. Hence he collected a team of brilliant scientists and immortals to help him create his legions. In the meantime, however, he needed to conquer Earth while his Primarchs and Space Marines were being created. He couldn't just use baseline humans though. Earth, or Terra as it's called in Warhammer, was the capital of humanity's intergalactic empire before everything went to shit. As such, the various techno-barbarians and warlords on Terra had some pretty nifty weapons and warriors, the kind of shit that could mow down an entire army of mortals as easy as I get erect when my girlfriend licks my ear. Hence the Emperor created a makeshift solution. By taking grown adult warriors and then crudely enhancing their muscles, bones and organs, etc., he could create powerful warriors that could overcome the horrific weapons of his rival warlords. These were his Thunder Warriors, and they were absolute monsters on the battlefield. They were larger and bulkier than Space Marines and even had the speed to match. They were also incredibly loyal to the Emperor and his cause. However, they had a few fatal flaws. The first being that their bodies began rejecting the crude superhuman surgery they received, causing rapid neurological deterioration as well as tumors sprouting within the Thunder Warriors. They basically just had a short shelf life, which wasn't really compatible with the longer lifespans needed to travel the stars and conquer the galaxy. Secondly, they were too brutal and unaesthetic. The Emperor liked pretty aesthetic things, hence why the Imperial Palace was a work of art before the Siege of Terra, and the Custodians are so goddamn dripped out. The Space Marines were mostly noble and inspiring figures. They could be brutal, but they could also inspire the Imperium and its people. The Thunder Warriors could never do that. They were just big, scary killing machines that would make for shitty PR and marketing campaigns. Hence, when the Wars of Unity were done, the Emperor gathered the remaining Thunder Warriors and had his Space Marines and Custodes mowed them down. Some survived and actually did a suicidal attack on the Imperial Palace, an attack that was thwarted by the Custodians as well as the first ever Dark Angels. Others got off-world, started a rebellion, and were likewise put down by Astartes. By the time the Horus Heresy hit, there is only a small handful left that are in hiding, using strange sciences to keep themselves alive for as long as they can. So that's the Thunder Warriors in a nutshell, but just how powerful are they really? Well, this may be surprising, but they are significantly stronger than Space Marines. Their larger muscles and increased bulk makes them them superior in that regard. Whenever Space Marines were sent to fight Thunder Warriors, the Space Marines would often fare worse, with the Astartes suffering considerably more casualties than their predecessors. In one case, the early World Eaters, or the Warhounds as they were called at the time, were sent to put down a Thunder Warrior insurrection, and the Thunder Warriors killed 4 World Eaters for each one of their own they lost, despite being outnumbered. When a group of traitor Space Marines were trying to escape from Terra, they encountered and fought one of the surviving Thunder Warriors in hiding. That Thunder Warrior killed an Emperor's Children duelist and fought the rest of the Space Marines to a standstill, before then casually just walking off. When Constantine Valdor fought against one of the Thunder Warrior leaders, arguably the greatest of their number, it wasn't a dominant one-sided fight. Valdor had to put in a shift before finally putting the captain down. Against Space Marines, Valdor doesn't even break a sweat, cutting them down in single strokes even if they are elite. But with the Thunder Warrior, it was a worthy duel. This does beg the question, why not just keep the Thunder Warriors and just make a second, longer-lived version of them, since they seem to be better warriors than Astartes? Well, there is a few reasons. Firstly, it may not have been realistically possible. The creation of a Thunder Warrior is like overclocking the fuck out of your computer. Sure, you get better performance, but your computer will eventually melt. Compare that to a Space Marine, which is like a computer with good all-round specs and no overclock, much more reliable and doesn't have a meltdown. Sure, it might not reach 4K 120 frames on Fortnite for the 60 seconds before the Thunder Warrior computer would melt, but it's consistent and safe. The Emperor already had the Custodes, he didn't need Thunder Warriors 2.0. Another issue is that despite the Thunder Warriors being legendary juggernauts in battle, futuristic wars aren't just a melee slugfest. Well, at least they shouldn't be. Most Thunder Warriors lack the tactical mind and genius of Space Marines, meaning they would be shit in void combat or coordinating planet-wide assaults. Worlds would also be much more likely to join the Imperium if the delegates were a noble, well-spoken Space Marine legion, rather than a bunch of cancer-ridden retards that were coughing up their own brain matter half the time. So we've established their physical strength. What about their speed? Thunder Warriors use Mark I Thunder Armor, which didn't actually power the legs. So they basically just walked at the enemy, firing their primitive bolt guns, until they were close enough to awkwardly jog the rest of the way and rip the enemy survivors apart. This doesn't mean they were slow, however. Out of this flawed armor, Thunder Warriors were blindingly fast. After all, you would have to be in order to best an Emperor's Children duelist. A Thunder Warrior's charge was as shocking as it was devastating. So whilst their armor did inhibit their speed and agility, they definitely weren't just these lumbering brutes. How about their durability? How much punishment could a Thunder Warrior take before they went kaput? Thunder Warriors didn't have the advanced healing organs that the Space Marines did. They didn't have instant clotting blood or rapid regenerative properties. However, they were almost entirely immune to pain, meaning they could only stop when they were dead. Space Marines, on the other hand, definitely felt pain and relied on their power armor injecting painkillers whenever their injuries were really bad. Many Space Marines died screaming in agony, and others were often incapacitated temporarily due to their pain. Thunder Warriors, on the other hand, took all the pain in their stride. Missing limbs, holes in their body, set on fire, they didn't give a fuck. If they were alive, they were fighting. So while on paper they were less durable than Space Marines, their lack of fucks to give meant that they could endure almost any injury without too much drama. After all, if you have constant agonizing tumors growing inside you, getting shot in the face would be the least painful thing to deal with. How about their war gear? As we touched on, the Thunder Warriors use Mark I Thunder Armor, power armor that gives them increased strength as it powered their arms and torso, but made them slow due to their leg armor being unpowered. It wasn't super reliable as it was made with limited knowledge from Terra's new forges. It was only when Terra and Mars united to create the Imperium of Man did the higher quality power armor from Mars get produced for the Space Marine legions. Likewise, their bolters were quite low tier. They still shot explosive tip projectiles that absolutely destroyed the anuses of mortal armies, but they were prone to jamming, overheating, and the magazine capacity and targeting wasn't great. Everything about the Thunder Warriors was a prototype. Their genecraft, their bolters, their power armor, it was all the Mark I version of everything the Space Marines would eventually get. So whilst it served its purpose and made them the dominant fighting force on Terra, it has all been made inferior and redundant by later marks of weapons and armor. Even the first Astartes power armor mark, with its powered legs and enclosed helmets, was a massive leap. Thunder Warriors weren't really known for having tanks or aircraft, as A, good luck fitting in that shit, and B, they were walking tanks, so they didn't really need to have battalions of rhinos or land raiders to back them up. What about their intelligence, their tactical prowess? This one is interesting. On one hand, their mental degradation as well as their lack of brain enhancements meant that the average Thunder Warrior was a bit of a retard. They didn't just Zerg rush the enemy line like a bunch of Naruto running Kyles, and their commanders had great aptitudes for war and strategy, however they could not compare to the brains of the Astartes or Custodes. However, there was one Thunder Warrior, Arik Taranis, who survived the Thunder Warrior Purge and began intense and highly sophisticated science experiments to extend his lifespan and ward off the tumors and brain degradation. He wanted to obtain Space Marine gene seed in order to reverse engineer it and turn himself into a Thunder Warrior Space Marine hybrid. All the power, none of the cancer. The gene seed and Astartes project was extremely complicated, with even some of the best of the Mechanicum not even knowing where to begin when it came to modifying the gene seed, let alone reverse engineering it. Putting Arik at a similar status as Fabius Bile when it came to intelligence. Not bad for a Thunder Warrior. I think this is more so a case of an exceptionally intelligent person becoming a Thunder Warrior rather than a Thunder Warrior being inherently super smart, but an interesting example nonetheless. It seems as if being a Thunder Warrior didn't inherently make someone stupid, at least not until their brain tumors got too spicy. So now we have sussed their strength, speed, war gear, durability, and intelligence. How powerful was a Thunder Warrior really? They were fucking elite. In a straight up brawl, there is very few Space Marines that could beat a Thunder Warrior. Their immense strength, decent speed, and insane durability makes them girthier than Space Marines in close combat. In saying that though, their war gear and overall intelligence lets them down. Space Marines gear is leagues above, and despite not being able to go toe to toe in a melee battle, Astartes would set up kill zones, flanks, bombardments, as well as headshots to get the edge of their predecessors in a genuine war. The only legion the Thunder Warriors could probably beat would be the World Eaters, since Angron and his sons would just fucking charge the Thunder Boys head on. As we have seen, Thunder Warriors massacre World Eaters. It was the right call of the Emperor to replace them. The only way they could continue to serve the Imperium in effective capacity would be if each legion was given a few hundred of them in stasis. Then, if they gave them a Thunder Hammer, some modified Terminator armor, and then just drop-potted them into enemy lines to act as heavy Berserker Juggernauts, they would be wildly overpowered and effective, bringing down a shitload of enemies. But other than that one very specific and quite expensive niche, after all Terminator armor doesn't grow on trees, they would be outclassed by normal Astartes in almost every other situation. Overall, an interesting case. The Space Marines weren't a straight upgrade of the Thunder Warriors, more like a refinement that had to sacrifice some power in order to provide consistency, reliability, and stability. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up a Major Mini. The Lightning Captain is live and ready for sale, with the Space Lions and the Lord of the Night going offline within the next 48 hours. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more thunderous content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.